Hello, welcome to Building Solid Foundations Radio. I am your host, Steve Matley. We're coming to you on KCAA Radio out of Redlands. We are all over Southern California, and if you are out of the listenership area, you can always catch us on Roku. You can catch us on Amazon Fire TV, on your favorite podcast platform, or even shows up on YouTube after a while. So check it out any way you can. Today, we're going to be talking... I know I talk a lot about real estate, but that's because that's the world I live in and the people I know. So Patrick Kappel's my guest today, and he's in the real estate business as well, but he comes from a different angle on it. And I first met Patrick when I went to a Real Estate Investor Association meeting, I don't know how many years ago, and Patrick was giving the market update. And I've been through market updates at a lot of different real estate investor associations. They come all the time, and it's usually the same canned presentation with all the slides that came from the Bureau of Labor Statistics and the Census Bureau and the wherever else they get them from, all the canned stuff that comes out. Generally not a lot of insight. Patrick gave a presentation that was like, you know what, this guy actually knows what he's talking about. He actually did some research. He knows a few things. And I've gotten to know him over the years a little bit, and he is one of the most erudite in the Southern California real estate market of anybody I've ever met. So I've always loved talking with Patrick. I always learn things from him. And besides that, he's an all-around good guy. And he is actually, you're a real estate agent and or broker or agent?
Yeah, I've got a real estate brokerage team,
Right.
12 agents, and I operate my team out of Compass down here in San Diego.
San Diego, that's right. And a very successful team. I see you guys are like killing it and all the always on the top of the heap.
Yeah.
And that doesn't surprise me. People tend to, if you're top notch, you tend to surround yourself with people who are top notch as well. So Patrick, here's what I wanted to get into a little bit. Not so much specific, what is the market conditions today, but there are a lot of people out there saying that, you probably missed the market. It was a good time to buy years back when everything was in the doldrums, but chances are you missed your opportunity, and why don't you just hang out and wait, and eventually the prices will come down. What do you say to those people?
Steve, we were just talking before this. There's a saying in real estate, don't wait to buy and then wait. I bought real estate I bought my first property in 2008. We all know what was going on then. A little bit of a dip.
And it was sort of the beginning of the dip.
The beginning. I bought in 2008, and my friends, my family, my mom and dad, they all said I was an idiot for buying in 2008. A year went by, and I was upside down on my mortgage. I owed more than the property was worth.
Because things kept going down. That's
Yep.
right.
And I went out in 2009, and I bought property number 2. And now my friends said, you are a bona fide idiot, Patrick.
That's right.
You're upside down on the thing you bought in 2008. Why are you buying again in 2009?
They labeled you as a slow learner.
Yeah, slow learner. and I was back in, I took second grade twice, I'll be honest. But
That's why it's called second grade.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Second,
I should use that one. Fast forward to 2012, we hit the bottom of the real estate market in San Diego.
Okay, so your 2008 investment has now fully devalued to a
Same with my
2012
09.
price.
Same with my 09. So I'm upside down on my first 2 properties. I'm in my 20s. What am I doing? And I went out and bought my most expensive property at the time in 2012. We're at the bottom, but nobody can call the bottom. You don't know when the bottom's going to happen.
Not until a couple of years later.
Not until a couple of years later. And so I didn't even tell my mom and dad about my 2012 purchase because
Didn't want that lecture?
They'd already lectured me on the first 2. And I'll tell you what, that 2012, that everyone told me I was a fool for buying. That one's probably made me more money than any other investment.
Oh, because you bought it at the bottom.
Bought at the bottom. I didn't know it was the bottom at the time. But the advice I got as a young guy in my 20s, I was in the military, and we're taught to follow orders and listen to our mentors without question. And one of my chiefs in the Navy, and a chief is a senior enlisted guy, he gave me the advice that Patrick and all the other guys that were working in the shop at the time, buy real estate every duty station you go to, every deployment you get back from. He didn't say something like, buy when these stars align, or buy when you see 2 rainbows in the sky, or buy when, so-and-so are telling you to buy. He just said, just buy, period. Doesn't matter if it's a good time or a bad time, because as you said, Steve, you're not going to know if it's a good time or a bad time until you look back on that 2 or 3 years later.
That's right.
And just as folks can dollar cost average into the stock market, you can dollar cost average into real estate. If you have the means, try and buy something. Owner occupied is what I did about every 2 years. And at the end of the day, you do that for 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, you're going to leave a breadcrumb, a trail of property behind you.
So every duty station you'd buy property, and then when you left, you'd put a renter in that property.
That's right. So I'd buy it owner occupied, occupy it myself for a year or two, move out, put a renter in it, go buy something else owner occupied.
Now, you can buy these under your military benefits?
Yeah, you can use your
because it's your primary residence.
That's right. So you can do a VA loan if you're a civilian, FHA loan. You could do 5% down conventional loans. So you're getting the advantage of a low down payment and, more importantly, a low interest rate on a property that in the next 12 to 24 months is going to be an investment property.
I think it's key. If you buy things as your primary residence, that doesn't mean it has to be your residence for life.
That's right.
You stay there for a while. There's usually a prescribed period of time to qualify for that, and then it can become an investment property.
Exactly. Steve, I own 8 properties in San Diego. 4 of them have owner-occupied financing because I lived in them for at least a year period at one point in time.
Okay, and of course, San Diego, not on the list of places that are bad real estate markets, right? It's pretty good.
Yeah.
Things are really hopping around here.
And as you mentioned, you and I have known each other a while. I really, back in 2016, 2017, I started giving these real estate market update presentations. And it would be a 1 to 2 hour presentation. But the takeaway, the thesis was buy in real estate now in San Diego because we're only going to skyrocket the way San Francisco did in the 90s. And I was saying that in 2016, 2017, and what's happened in San Diego in the last 5 years. And I saw the writing on the wall, not because I was looking at real estate. If you want to know what's going to happen to the price of real estate, don't look at real estate. Look at the economy around that real estate.
Well, and also look at what's planned for the economy around that.
Exactly.
Because things don't happen overnight. There's a planning process that happens.
And it's slow.
And it's
so
a
you
slow
can see
process.
it a long ways out.
That's right. That's right.
I mean, the biotech revolution in San Diego, we didn't wake up one day and all of a sudden biotech's all over in the backyard of San Diego.
That started in the late 80s. Actually.
Late 80s. And it really just started shooting off in the last few years.
It kind of branched. It came from the presence of UCSD and grew from that. That's right.
Yeah. So no, just all the biotech growth, the military growth, the tech growth, the VCs coming down here to San Diego. The fact we are grossly undervalued compared to LA and San Francisco. Not to mention we had the best weather and the least traffic. The writing was on the wall. Yep. We were just waiting for our time. So is it a good time to buy? Is it a bad time? I would say the best time to buy real estate is yesterday. The second best time today. The worst is any time in the future. So buy as soon as you can.
So that's a paraphrase of the old, what was the old adage? The best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. Yeah. The second best time was today. But for real estate, you're right. Buy it yesterday, it's already appreciated. I think about people that bought the real estate, I want to say October of 2006. Mm-hmm. Highest price point probably right before things started to slide down. Because it really started sliding down by the beginning of 2007. We didn't really feel it till 2008, but that's when things started really sliding. So if you bought it, you probably bought it at the highest amount of money, and people just said, well, that was really bad timing. What is that worth today? We are higher now than we were at the peak at that point.
Exactly. In fact, I don't think you can find a 10-year period in American history where real estate is worth less 10 years later than when you bought it. Even when you look at the peaks to the trough to the next peak. Usually you're going to recover within 10 years. The big thing, and we're...
In most markets. Now, there's some markets that's not true.
Well, sure, yeah. I'm talking about...
You're talking about growth markets,
yeah.
Sun Belt states, those kind of, right? Yeah.
And let's be honest, a lot of people are... I grew up in North Dakota, small town, North Dakota. Town I grew up in is called Grafton. And when I was a child there, it had 5,000 people in it. Now it has 3,000 people in it. Someday it'll have 2,000, someday 1,000. I wouldn't invest in a city like that. Has high cash flow.
Shrinking.
Has high cash flow. But that cash flow is to make up for the lack of appreciation that you'll see.
Well, and it makes sense because that means there's at least 2,000 residences that are empty if people are leaving.
Homes, dilapidated, yeah. So you want to buy into an economy. When you invest, let's say you go out there and you buy some stock in Facebook or Tesla or Google, Alphabet, whatever these companies are, you can invest in any stock, but you don't invest in it because it looks cool or you like your Facebook page or your Twitter account. You invest in it because of the fundamentals around and within that company. Same with real estate. You invest in property A, B, or C, not because of the way the sink or the kitchen looks or the roof, but because of the fundamentals around that property.
And that's a good principle. One thing I've always liked about, with our company, we're not investing in houses. It's not residential. We're doing land, which is kind of more commercial. One thing I liked about that side of the business is it's not emotional. Most of residential purchases are emotional. People buy it because it's the great school district. Look at this master bedroom. This is a perfect kitchen. Oh, look at how the yard is, right? At the neighborhood. It's a very emotional decision. Now, we give ourselves enough facts to convince ourselves it's rational, but the fact is mostly it's emotional. On the commercial side, it tends to be on a spreadsheet. And no matter how much you like or dislike a property, the bottom line is if it's not going to make money, it doesn't matter what it looks like. We're not doing it. It's a dollar and cents thing. And I always liked that side of real estate because while it takes some of the fun out of it, it also takes a lot of the guesswork out of it. Now, as you say, even if you make that emotional decision and pay too much, if you hang on long enough, it's going to be okay.
Yeah.
Just don't go sell it at the low point. Don't panic. Don't panic. And that's also an issue sometimes of cash flow. We're going to have to take a break. And when we come back, I want to continue this track of the conversation. I'm talking with Patrick Capel today. Patrick Capel is a broker with Compass Realty in San Diego. He is one of the top producers. And more so than that, he is one of the most well-researched and informed people in real estate on the Southern California economy and general market. This is Building Solid Foundations Radio. I'm your host, Steve Matley. We'll be right back after this break.
Fire Up Connect is the most innovative business networking group, supporting and collaborating with a dozen of small businesses that are interested in building and establishing strong business connections, hosting educational live seminars while carrying out business and community-driven projects, as well as marketing programs as a part of its membership program. Fire Up Connect also offers virtual assistance with a wide range of services including inbound customer support, chat support, appointment setting and email management, graphic designing, video editing, web design and development, social media marketing, e-commerce solution, content writing and much more. For more information, head on over to www.fireupconnect.com. Fire Up Connect, helping success stories unfold every day.
I love how New School is able to help me greatly with my career.
Because they actually have experience working in the field.
The greatest thing about New School is the fact that there are so many different disciplines, which allows you to really understand and get a good insight into different types of design. And I think it's that whole changing mindset of what design can really do for a city, and this is kind of the place to be.
This environment cultivates creative thinking.
Hi, this is Steve Matley. As a construction professional, I know the importance of selecting the right contractor for the job. Power Solar employs only professional installers. Power Solar will provide a knowledgeable consultant to help analyze your current electric bill, identify site placement, and correct solar technology for your home. Contact KCAA producer at gmail.com for a free financial savings proposal with no obligation, or call 951-551-1350 and ask for Ken. Again, that's KCAA producer at gmail.com or 951-551-1350 and ask for Ken. Welcome back to Building Solid Foundations Radio. I'm your host, Steve Matley. Today in the studio is Patrick Capel. We have been talking about real estate, specifically the Southern California and San Diego real estate market. Now, Patrick, my company, we have a long history of working in California, specifically Southern California. We've moved into other states, Florida, Texas, Arizona, primarily because they're booming because Californians are leaving. Florida, some New Yorkers and stuff too, but the Californians are going there. There is a rumor that California is emptying out and the last person's going to shut the light off as they leave. However,
I'll be that last person.
The reason that we're not leaving California because it's not profitable.
Yeah.
We're leaving California only because the process to do what we do, which is entitle land, has become so arduous and complicated. Mm-hmm. It's just less stress and almost as profitable to do it in other places. So that we look at the it's not just the financial investment, it's the investment of your time, your stress, and your brain damage in doing a project versus what are you getting out of it. And so that was our decision. It's really more of a, this is easier to do over here. But I'm a firm believer there is still a lot of money made in California. What are your thoughts on the idea that California is yesterday's news and it's vacating and you might as well go to Texas or someplace else?
Well, two thoughts. First of all, I want to mention what you do as a business, land entitlement, and then, do a lot of that legwork and then sell it off. It made me think of a lot of people that get into this business, they say, I want to make money, right? They say, I want to get into real estate to make money. But the real people that know what they're doing, they know that they're not going to make money. They're going to create money.
And you create money by solving problems for people.
That's right.
Yeah.
Making it means you got to, creating money. We could do a podcast on creating versus making.
That's right.
But you guys create it. As far as California, though, I told my team this. I tell people all the time. Anyone who bets against California is betting to lose. And here's why. Again, we were talking about this out in the lobby a minute ago. But and I realize why you are looking in these other states, because California's government makes it painful to develop and expensive.
It's the time frame. So our projects are structured that they make phenomenal ROI if we can get them done in a certain time frame. As soon as they pass over that, we actually have to close on the land, and now the profit just got sucked out of it. So it doesn't work anymore for that model. Our business model doesn't work.
And a lot of California's laws that create that atmosphere ensure that those who own property will continue to build wealth, because it's so hard to add inventory to the market. But what I was getting at with don't bet against California, for those folks, especially long-term investors, is when you look at all 50 states, one of the 50 states had more GDP growth than all other 49 states. And GDP growth is really, think of it as a measure of the health, of the growth of a state's economy.
It's a measure of their output.
It's a measure of their output.
Yeah.
And that one state, obviously, California. California already has more GDP growth, more GDP than every other state. And not only do we have a higher GDP, but the growth of that GDP over the last 5 years has been greater than all 49 states, Texas, Arizona, all these states.
And this might be news to people who read about Tesla's leaving California.
Yeah, no,
this company's leaving that. All these companies leaving California. There's still a lot of growth here.
Still a lot. Our economy, California's economy, is in between the entire economies of Australia and Brazil. We are a country in ourselves here in California when you look at the size of the economy.
No, some would argue a third world country, but that's a different thing.
But Australia, who wouldn't want to be there? But no, we certainly have had the most GDP growth. As far as folks moved out, here is why you can lose a lot of Californians and you will still see home prices skyrocket. Because at the end of the day, take a city like San Diego, about 50% of our population is renters, 50% homeowners. Now, people are moving out because they can't afford it. For the most part, those folks that can't afford it are the renters. Renters are not affecting home prices that much. Sure, you lose a tenant, but we already have 2%
But a lot
vacancy.
are moving out because they're renters and they know they can't afford to buy because they'll never get that down payment scraped together.
That's right. And, for every 4 people that leave, we gain 2 or 3. Yet, 2 things that must be considered. The quantity of who moves in and who moves out is not as important as the demographic between who moves in and who moves out.
The quality level.
I was going to say
from
quality,
an economic
but I don't
standpoint.
want to.
That sounds harsh when you're talking human beings, because there's really not a higher quality person
Quality
than
is
another.
more important than quantity.
But if you're talking from an economic standing.
Yes. So the majority of the folks that are moving out are those, just to put them in the demographic, and governments track this because of tax returns. The folks moving out are those without college educations, low income, low wages, low employment.
Because they can't afford to live here.
And they can't afford it. The folks moving in, and trust me, as much as we have an exodus out, we have an exodus in. The folks moving into California, for the most part, are millennials, young, growing the economy, have 4-year degrees, a lot of them masters. They have 6-figure paying jobs. and they're working in the tech and the biotech space.
The tech and the entertainment business and the biotech tend to be still a lot of the big employers in California, and they're high paying.
Exactly. So we have a human capital exchange happening, and a lot of folks will come to me and they'll say, well, isn't everyone moving to Texas? Texas is a popular state that Californians move to. However, guess what state most people move from when they move into California? Texas.
Yeah, now Texas is in fact growing. Houston, Dallas, Fort Worth, San Antonio, Austin, booming cities. But not everybody's coming from California.
Yeah.
There's people moving from other areas too. But I think people underestimate how many people are in California. You can lose a lot of people and not lose a large percentage of your population here.
Yeah, and our birth rate helps to compensate.
Birth rate, and there's international immigration still that comes in. All that supplements the people that are exiting. The exit is a domestic migration, and a lot of there's still international immigration coming in, as well as birth rate. Birth rate is huge.
That's right.
People underestimate that, and birth rate, you think, okay, well, but those aren't tax-paying productive people. Well, they will be in about 18 to 20 years, which is a fairly small span of time.
Exactly. Well, and when you talk about other states, California, another chart that's popped up in the last year is the rate of appreciation of real estate in every state. And you look at some states, highest state I think was Nevada, Phoenix, or Arizona. You saw 25, 26%. Austin, Texas, you saw over 30%. California, we were ranked like number 3 amongst the states' appreciation rates. But California was ranked number 1 when you look at how much equity did the average homeowner gain. Because a 20% rate of appreciation in California is a much bigger dollar than a 30% rate of appreciation in California, or excuse me, Texas, simply because our homes are priced higher.
Well, the old saying, a small percentage of a big number is a big number.
Bingo.
And so when you have a moderately large percentage of a large number, it's a phenomenally large number. Yeah. And people, when you look at the percentage increase, let's say in some parts of Texas or in the Carolinas or other places, when you're starting at homes that are at 250 versus homes that are at 750.
Yeah, San Diego.
And yeah, you can have a 5% increase in both places, and it's a big difference when you're talking the larger.
The average California homeowner in 2021 gained about $156,000 in equity. In other words, their net worth went up $156,000 tax-free. That's California.
Now, why is it tax-free? Because people get confused by that. They say everybody's got to pay taxes because most people, their experience with any kind of revenue or income is W-2 income.
Yeah. So first of all, just like stock appreciating, well, a piece of real estate appreciating, you don't get taxed on that until you create a taxable event like selling the property and collecting the proceeds.
So you realize the gains.
Realize the gain. Yeah. But you can sell the property and do a 1031 exchange and not pay any taxes on all of your gains, millions of dollars in gains.
And so that's not a tax-free, that's a deferred.
Tax deferred.
That's deferred, yeah. So you will pay that taxes eventually unless you die first.
Unless you die first and leave it to your kids. That's right. The play. And the other thing is cash out refi. You can pull out hundreds of thousands, again, millions, the sky's the limit. You can do a cash out refi on a property and not pay any taxes.
So you're borrowing money against the equity in your home, and the reason it's not taxable is because you didn't actually earn it, you're borrowing it. It's a loan.
Yes.
You're borrowing it from your house, basically, through a lender, and then paying it back.
The wealthy look at real estate as nothing more than a piece of collateral that they can harvest now and then. And
it's a tool.
It's a tool. It's a piece of collateral that you own, and you can pull money out of it throughout your life.
That's right. And real estate's not the only one out there. There's people, you can do that with precious metals, and you can do that with stocks and bond portfolios, and you can do that with fine art. You can do that with just about, sports memorabilia. There's a lot of things you can do that with. Real estate just tends to be the most stable and, how would you say, I guess most reliable of them.
And with the tax bill of 2017, it became the only investment asset that you could 1031 exchange.
Yeah, it used to be you could 1031 like for like with anything. Now it's only real estate, real property, and that was a major change. So.
Yeah, absolutely. No, bottom line though is, if anyone betting against California is betting to lose. California has been the biggest winner on GDP growth, the biggest winner on real estate appreciation dollar amounts. in the last 5 years. I always ask people too, anyone who's betting against California, I would say if you could go back to 1970 or pick a year in the past and invest in, pick a town, pick a state, or coastal California, where would you have invested? And they always say coastal California. And they say, but it's too expensive now. And I say, as expensive.
But they thought that then.
It was back then for $1970. And trust me, in the year 2050, you'll look back at 2022 or 2023, any of these years, and say, my gosh, I wish I would have bought more real estate back then.
That's right. So we're going to take another short break. We're going to continue this conversation with Patrick Capel. We are talking about really real estate in general, but we've been talking a little more about the Southern California market. We're going to expand on this conversation when we come back from this short break. This is Building Solid Foundations. I'm your host, Steve Matley.
Fire Up Connect is the most innovative business networking group, supporting and collaborating with a dozen of small businesses that are interested in building and establishing strong business connections, hosting educational live seminars while carrying out business and community-driven projects, as well as marketing programs as a part of its membership program. Fire Up Connect also offers virtual assistance with a wide range of services including inbound customer support, chat support, appointment setting and email management, graphic designing, video editing, web design and development, social media marketing, e-commerce solution, content writing and much more. For more information, head on over to www.fireupconnect.com. Fire Up Connect, helping success stories unfold every day.
I love how new school is able to help me greatly with my career.
Because they actually have experience working in the field.
The greatest thing about new school is the fact that there are so many different disciplines, which allows you to really understand and get a good insight into different types of design. And I think it's that whole changing mindset of what design can really do for a city, and this is kind of the place to be.
This environment cultivates creative thinking.
Hi, this is Steve Matley. As a construction professional, I know the importance of selecting the right contractor for the job. Power Solar employs only professional installers. Power Solar will provide a knowledgeable consultant to help analyze your current electric bill, identify site placement, and correct solar technology for your home. Contact KCAA Producer at gmail.com for a free financial savings proposal with no obligation, or call 951-551-1350 and ask for Ken. Again, that's KCAA Producer at gmail.com or 951-551-1350 and ask for Ken. Hey, welcome back to Building Solid Foundations Radio. I'm your host, Steve Matley. Today we're talking with Patrick Capel. Patrick Capel is a real estate broker and investor. He's also an expert in the real estate market. Patrick, we were talking a little bit about what California is, how it's doing compared to the rest of the country, some of those issues. Another question I wanted to ask you, because we already addressed the issue, is it a good time to buy and those kind of things. One of the questions I wanted to throw at you is it a good idea to invest in real estate in an area that you're not living in? Because you mentioned you were picking up places and duty stations. That meant you knew those areas.
Yep.
You knew the town, you knew the neighborhood, and even though you moved away, you had a familiarity.
Yeah.
There's a big move towards so-called out-of-state investing right now.
Ooh, yeah.
Is that something that you encourage, or is that something that you think may be problematic?
It may be problematic if you or the individual you're working with doesn't understand what you're investing in. You need, I've got a military background, and before we would sail a ship or go into any battle space or training area, we would learn that area inside out before you operate in it. So I always tell consumers, if you're going to invest in your own backyard, great, you know it, but make sure you still work with a professional that knows that backyard inside out, because most consumers aren't going to work in real estate day in, day out. If you're going to invest out of state, even more important, make sure that if you are not familiar with that city, that town, that state, that economy, you're working with someone who is. i.e., if I was going to invest, I don't know, Fargo, North Dakota, that's where my mom and dad live. And someone said, hey, Patrick, give me some money, going to invest in Fargo, North Dakota. I'd say, okay, give me some information about Fargo, North Dakota. What are the major businesses? What's the economy like there? And I'd want to know about it. So I'd say, yeah, just make sure you're familiar with the area you're investing in. Most consumers, though, won't be familiar with real estate, even in their own backyard, which is why it's so important to just work with professionals that, at the end of the day, are professional and giving you good advice.
Okay, so even if I live in a town and I've lived there for a couple decades, that doesn't mean I know the real estate market in the town.
That's right.
I know the neighborhoods.
Look,
I know the schools. I know the people
Yeah,
there.
yeah, but you don't know the real estate market. Look, I've lived down the street from a hospital for 20 years. I don't know how to do surgery.
Right. Okay.
I mean, right? I live by a restaurant. I'm not a great cook. Well, I'm not a bad cook either. But just because you live in the proximity of an area doesn't make you a professional in that industry.
Okay, and then if you're going out of state, you have the added issue of not only do you not know the real estate market, you also don't know the town.
You don't know.
Because there is an advantage when you live locally that I know that street.
Yeah.
And that's the street the police are always on.
Yeah.
So maybe I don't want to invest there,
Yeah.
put a renter in there, right?
Yeah.
Or I know this area and I know for a fact that these are probably undervalued properties in this area. Or,
Yeah.
I know that street and the fact that it's listed at this, that's a bargain. I need to jump on it. So you have that advantage locally that you're not going to have out of state.
Exactly.
And so how are you going to find these professionals? How do I Google somebody in Arkansas to find somebody, or?
You know what? That's not one bad way, but yeah, you get referrals. A lot of times, I know in the real estate brokerage business, I work at a national brokerage. So if I've got a friend, an associate, client, or a friend's father that wants to buy or sell real estate in any other major city around the nation, I can make a few phone calls, screen a few people, interview, and make sure I connect them with a good realtor in that marketplace. There's nothing better than working with someone that you know well or someone that you know well knows that person, a referral.
Personal referral.
Because they're not going to hook you up with someone bad. That would ruin their own reputation. But yeah, there's so many review websites out there. You can't trust them all. But you got to do your due diligence.
I'm a little leery of review websites.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of things come to light
that's
of, the pay for the rankings and those kind of things.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You can't trust them all, and that's what I'm saying. The best source is really kind of word of mouth and referrals and people who know people. I'm smiling, though, when you're talking about the invest out of state. You're making me think of a Michigan town, made international news headlines. It was becoming a ghost town, a lot of, upper Midwest areas. And folks from California, Arizona, all over the nation bought homes in this Michigan town. I think it was outside of Detroit, because you could buy a home for like $5,000, $4,000, $10,000.
So they were buying them as investment properties?
They were buying them some as investment properties. Some of them said, I always wanted to own a home, so I'm going to move here. I can live in a home for $10,000. Yeah. And then these people feel bad for them. They bought a one-way plane ticket, one-way train ticket, filled up the car and drove up there, only to realize one of them found a dead body in the house, a druggie that had overdosed. Most of the homes, the roofs didn't exist anymore. They're leaking. It's a ghost town. And the property was dilapidated. It was being used by transients and whatnot. But this city sold them auction style on the internet.
Okay.
And they needed to offload these properties because they're losing the city and the county money. They can't collect any taxes. No locals would buy it.
Right.
And that's another thing. If you're buying a property from out of state, most locals are kicking the tire of that property before you go in and buy it. So I have, Steve, I've sold real estate in Missouri, where my wife's from. And even though I'm a realtor and I could, for the most part, do the deal on my own, I still hired a professional broker in Missouri. And even though as a realtor I could say, hey man, kick me a referral fee or something, I still paid them full price. Because you get what you pay for in this life. And I wanted to make sure, hey, this is a deal my wife's family is selling. I want to make sure that she's getting taken care of. And we interviewed 3 or 4 different brokers in Missouri, talked with people around town. You'll learn a lot more usually by walking up and down a street and talking with people than you'll ever learn on the internet.
Go to the local restaurant, the coffee house, and
right.
Sit at the bar and counter and talk to people. That's right.
Yeah, I mean, you're right,
Hang
Steve.
out at Starbucks.
People are a better review source than online because you can get so many online reviews. Online's a good place to start, but then go out there, visit it, walk the street,
and
talk to
physically
people.
look at the property. And so that's where you have to say, okay, I've got a budget set aside, and the budget is set aside to go do acquisition. And that some of that is hiring people, but some of that's a plane ticket
Yep.
and a hotel stay and a rental car and some food. And you're going to go and spend a few days scouting around. Even we buy land.
Yeah.
Land, we don't have a house to look through, but I want to look at that land.
Oh, yeah.
And so we will physically go visit, and generally it'll be a few visits. We'll go out once and do a general scouting of the areas. Okay, so what's that? You're looking at the listed properties, right? You get a listing, you find a real estate person in the area that you want to work with, and they'll show you around, this is what's listed for land. Why? I want to know roughly what land looks like, what people think it's worth out there that's being listed, right? What's adjacent to it. I'm not going to buy anything that's listed. We never do. But I need to start there. I need to start there because there's information on them, acreage and prices and those kind of things, right? Zoning and that kind of stuff. So I start with that, and I use that as a basis to drive around instead of just driving aimlessly.
You're making me smile again because I'm thinking, as you're talking, Steve, I'm thinking a lot of people out there probably think it's easier and less complex to buy land than it is to buy a building, because you got a building, you got to go through it, right? And I've learned firsthand, because you've sold a lot more land than I have and bought. I've sold a few pieces of land, and I've learned that is the most complex transaction because
none of it's visible.
None of it's visible, and a lot of it is unknown still.
It's
what can be built, what can't be built. Is this a floodplain?
Yeah, it's all
Where's the
hidden.
water draining to?
It's all hidden. You don't know yet, and it hasn't been improved, and you don't know what it could be.
Yeah.
And so what you have to look at is zoning plan, general plan. I need a full title workup on it. I need the tax records on it. I need the ownership records on it. I need I utilities, topography, all the stuff. I need environmental site assessments. I need all the stuff, traffic noise, all the stuff. I got to figure all this stuff out to figure out, and then go talk to the local agency once I find a piece of property to say, what could I do there?
Yeah.
If I tried to do this, would this be okay? And sometimes they'll say, we would love that. And sometimes they say, yeah, they're not going to get that approved here.
Absolutely.
And so then you're going, okay, so where can I do this? And so there's all these layers. And like I say, it'll take us multiple visits. I could find a property on a computer that looks pretty good after I know the area pretty well. See, once I know that, now I've created my little area, my section. And once I got the section, I'm identifying properties, profiled them, right? I've profiled properties, and I'll go through, and now I'm looking at title records, and I can do that from the computer. Contact my realtor person locally and say, here's the properties I need you to go after. Go find the owners of these properties. Here's what I have for owners, right? Because you could look at tax records, and that's how we do it. And out of those, you're going to get 1 out of every 20 that you go after, because they weren't for sale.
They weren't. No,
They weren't for sale. What you're trying to do is find where is the problem that I can solve for people that own properties in this area, because they haven't talked about it. They don't know. I don't know them. They don't know me. But I know, I'm guaranteeing you, there's a few people in this area that don't want that property anymore. They've inherited it. It's a hassle to them. It's a pain.
It's not making them any money.
They need cash more than they need this, whatever. They don't plan, they don't know what to do with it. They never asked for it. It just kind of showed up because somebody passed away or whatever. These are the things that happen. And so if we can find whose problem can I solve, that's how we go about it. But we have to go look at the area, and we have to go look at the physical property itself. I want to know things like, where is it draining? I want to know things like, what's next door to it? I want to know, we look at it and say, it looks like there used to be a gas station on this. I don't think I want this site.
Is there a tank beneath it?
Exactly. There's probably a problem here. I don't want that.
Yeah.
Or, agriculture property. Okay, it's ag property. But was this where the field was, or is this where the tool shed was?
How long are your land deals usually? Is it a 6-month?
Depends where you are. The escrow in California, they're much longer because it takes us a long time. Out of state, we can get in. We can get them done in under 12 months, but we try to stretch them to at least that for long-term capital gains. But we try to get 120 days of due diligence.
At least
120 days of due diligence to do full research on it. Yeah. And if we can get that, we can get soils and environmental and zoning and talk to the city and utilities and all that kind of stuff. Figure a lot of that out, topography issues, and that. Pretty much, information is the #1 mitigator to risk. Yeah. If you have information, if you have knowledge, that mitigates most of your risk. We're going to have to take another break. When we come back, we'll wrap this conversation up with Patrick Capel. We're talking about a lot of general stuff about real estate in different parts of the country, and just really good tips if you ever wanted to get into this or just interested in how the whole thing works. I'm Steve Matley. This is Building Solid Foundations Radio, and we'll be right back after this.
FireUp Connect is the most innovative business networking group, supporting and collaborating with a dozen of small businesses that are interested in building and establishing strong business connections, hosting educational live seminars while carrying out business and community-driven projects, as well as marketing programs as a part of its membership program. FireUp Connect also offers virtual assistance with a wide range of services including inbound customer support, chat support, appointment setting and email management, graphic designing, video editing, web design and development, social media marketing, e-commerce solution, content writing and much more. For more information, head on over to www.fireupconnect.com. FireUp Connect, helping success stories unfold every day.
I love how New School is able to help me greatly with my career.
Because they actually have experience working in the field.
The greatest thing about New School is the fact that there are so many different disciplines, which allows you to really understand and get a good insight into different types of design. And I think it's that whole changing mindset of what design can really do for a city, and this is kind of the place to be.
This environment cultivates creative thinking.
Hi, this is Steve Matley. As a construction professional, I know the importance of selecting the right contractor for the job. Power Solar employs only professional installers. Power Solar will provide a knowledgeable consultant to help analyze your current electric bill, identify site placement, and correct solar technology for your home. Contact KCAA producer at gmail.com for a free financial savings proposal with no obligation, or call 951-551-1350 and ask for Ken. Again, that's KCAA producer at gmail.com or 951-551-1350 and ask for Ken. Welcome back to Building Solid Foundations Radio. I'm your host, Steve Matley. We've been talking with Patrick Capel. Patrick, let's kind of wrap up our conversation for today. We've covered a lot of ground. A couple of things I wanted to point out to the audience just in case they were curious. I talked a little bit about your knowledge of the markets and where that comes from. But you do a lot of research and a lot of study on this stuff. Now, you've got, I believe, MBA, right? University of San Diego, real estate development, is that right?
So University of San Diego, I've got a Master's of Science in Real Estate.
That's right.
UCLA, an MBA with a focus in finance, and
That's
then
right.
Naval Academy for undergraduate.
And all three of those are schools that would not let me in unless I was delivering a pizza. So it takes a bit to get in there. Those are, those, and then much more work to get back out of them with a degree. Yeah. So, full respect for that. And I work in education. I do work in a college, and if my high school guidance counselor knew that, he'd probably flip. He had no idea, but I respect that. But that in itself doesn't get you anywhere. That's a good foundation to learn how to go find information. Yeah. But you do a lot of research, so and you know things about the local real estate market that the so-called experts don't really ever talk about. So kind of talk about your process of, I know you're always educating yourself, yourself. So first of all, you already got the brokerage, you got people working for you, you make money. Why go to all that effort?
Because it's my job to educate my clients. And an educated client, an informed client is a confident client, and a confident client will make decisions. Most people that sit on the sidelines their entire life and don't move forward in the directions they want to move forward to, it's because they're scared. And I get it. We're all born scared, right? We're crying when we're born. And the only thing that gets you over that 4-letter F word, fear, is knowledge. And I learned, to get over my own fears, to get out there and buy real estate, I had to gain the knowledge. So I remember back when I was, still like a young child in middle school, I was reading books like The Millionaire Next Door, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I read the books, I watched the podcasts, and then I decided, I should go get the formal education. And now I continue to educate myself because I'm still an investor myself. I want to make sure I'm making data-driven decisions. And I want to be able to share that with my clients to make sure they're making data-driven decisions. But no matter where someone lives in this country, you have access to local data that's publicly available about your market. And one of the best sources is the public universities. On Thursday, I was tuning in to a 4-hour real estate conference at the University of San Diego. Economists that are local and national spoke at this conference. No, by the way, they all had the same thing: buy now, don't wait, as you and I were talking about at the beginning. And your public universities, no matter what state you live in, what town you live in, type in the name of that public university and then real estate or real estate outlook. And most major universities have a real estate department that is collecting lots of data and research and putting together a real estate outlook for your specific market. Another great place is your local government. Every government has economists that sit on its panel, and your local government is going to have a board of advisors that also puts together a lot of economic data.
They have an economic development department.
And here's
Yes.
Sandag for us.
Yeah.
Sandag's a great source. And your local association of realtors will share you a lot of data. Your business journal. Subscribe to the San Diego Business Journal or whatever business journal it is for the town you live in, and you'll learn a lot about the economic growth going on in your backyard.
Yeah. So the sources you really don't want to rely on would be your typical large news channel.
Yeah, no,
because they're trying to sell headlines.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, you don't rely on the information from a big news channel that's got a soundbite or a cover story. Don't rely on your uncle, your brother, your cousin, your coworker that doesn't work in real estate as a professional. How many times do you see that? I wouldn't go to my coworker to get medical advice. I'd go to my doctor, and I wouldn't go to my doctor to get real estate advice. I'd go to my real estate.
So the information's out there, and a lot of it is online and free because, as you mentioned, public universities and public agencies, that's all free available information. There's no copyright, no intellectual property on that stuff because it belongs to the public.
Yeah.
And so you can take that and copy it and read it and disseminate, do whatever you want with it. Now, there are also a lot of private universities, the larger ones, private, non-profit universities that run real estate. You mentioned University of San Diego, which is a private university.
Private one there, yeah. But they'll still share with the public.
Yeah, and Chapman University puts out a really good economic forecast every year out of Orange County. Now, of course, UCLA is public. They have a very good economics department that puts out a regular real estate market forecast. And that is all very well available. And one thing I mentioned at the beginning of the show, that I originally met you when you were doing a presentation at a club. That was, I'm not sure which year, that was 17 maybe?
17.
I remember going to, I don't know how many different clubs and hearing these economic prognosticators from the real estate world. All of them were saying, this is the cap, you want to get out now.
Yeah.
But all of them had this idea that you don't want to do anything because the market's going to turn down unless you buy my program.
Oh.
And you buy, and then I can coach you and you'll learn how not to make the mistakes because the market is going to go down.
Yeah.
That was the pitch. And I thought I enjoyed going to yours and realizing, you know what? Not only is he saying this, and it's not just a confirmation bias of my own view that the market's not going down, and it didn't. It went up sharply. Yeah. Those that sat on the sidelines in 2017 got burned. It's because it was backed up by data, charts, graphs, and actual planned projects that were committed and coming into the area that were bringing billions of dollars and hundreds of jobs with them. And okay, so this is the kind of information that gets people off the fence because a lot of people were afraid of investing because of what they were hearing from these other so-called experts, which really were just, let's say, cut and pasting stuff and repeating what they had heard. Obviously, the market continued to go up and still does.
Yeah.
And I'm not convinced that it's going to drop anytime in the near future, but I do know it will someday. And I also know, like you say, that's not the time to panic. That's the time to say, well,
it's time to buy.
Let's not sell it at this point. Yeah. Let's hold on and let's wait, and it'll appreciate. And we'll get out of this, and let's go buy some more. We're almost out of time here, Patrick. I really want to thank you for your time and sharing your insights with our listeners today. This is Building Solid Foundations Radio on KCAA. Our guest today was Patrick Capel. If you want to find Patrick Capel, he's in the San Diego area at Compass Real Estate. Just look up Patrick Capel, and you'll find him. If you want to catch us on a replay, you can catch us on your favorite podcast platform, on Roku, Amazon Fire TV under Building Solid Foundations, or it'll be up on YouTube in a little bit. Catch us every week, 3 o'clock on Thursdays, right here on KCAA. And until next week, go do something new and exciting.
KCAA Loma Linda, 1050 AM, 106.